What's your carnal theory?
Hey there, you're listening to Carnal Theory, where we talk with experts from around the world to learn how taking command of our sexual story affects our personal wellness, sexual experiences, and relationships with ourselves and others. Hi, everybody. I'm Abba.
And I'm Amanda. And today on Carnal Theory, we're sitting down with Dorine van der Wijk, who has veered from a more traditional career path to focus on studying and building a wish and gift economy. It's an economy that asks, what is wealth? And we can't wait to dive deeper into this throughout the episode, especially how it relates to sex and relationships. Dorine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Most welcome, Abba and Amanda. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, thank you, Dorine. So, to get us started, I'm going to ask for you to share the carnal theory that you've brought for us. And as a reminder to our audience, we ask our guests to bring a carnal theory that gives us a mix of a conversation starter and something that we can both think about throughout this interview as well as take with us after this interview. It's something that might challenge a perception or a presumption that we might have. And in this case, both with what Dorine is working on full time, as well as what we'll talk about. It's also about how it relates to this month's theme at My Sex Bio, which is discussing sex as a transaction. So we'll get into that more as well. So Dorine, if you could share the carnal theory you have.
So my theory, it's like a great cliffhanger, what you put there, is my theory is we must create environments where we ask what we need.
Yeah, and that obviously applies to transactions because that is the transaction.
You don't know what to ask for, you don't know how you can transact it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know if we don't know what we need, we don't know what to ask for, we don't know what we're going to get. If the other person, if that's not just like a societal standard or a relationship standard, that's going to be very hard to expect our partner to do that in return to us. So yeah, I think that's a really obvious but profound aha. Like we have to create the environment. That's where it all starts. Yeah,
it starts with create a safe environment where you feel that you can do that. And what you just said, like it starts with that environment. If we go in how we are like conditioned and programmed in life, is that most of the time is not in that environment. We get just programmed with a mainstream thought on how things should be, and it should probably also work for you then. So you just ask what you have been programmed with and what you think that you need according to the programming, whatever it is, if it's in sex or in your career or in your health or whatever area it is. So then go back to the environment. How can we create an environment where we have that safe space to really dig in what you need instead of what we think that the mainstream needs?
Mm. And how do we know when because if you're constantly told what you need, then you kind of start to believe that that's what you need. How do you kind of break that pattern or interrupt that belief system and realize that this isn't even what you need? If you're thinking it is what you need, how do you realize that? How do you break that and interrupt that?
I think what you just said is like if you are so conditioned and told that it is what you need, it's like also indoctrination, and all the media system and all the education is like in that framing. And how do you know that? I think for everyone that's different, but it starts with observe and challenge. Is this something I need, or is this something what I have been taught?
Mm.
And I think a universal, but that's an assumption I make, but I believe I have, is we all deep down feel when it doesn't flow or when it doesn't work for you.
Mm.
And we are so strongly programmed that we ignore all of that signals. Like I had to hit like 2 depressions, 2 burnouts to really find out like, hey, maybe the path I'm walking is not not programmed as what I need, and so we are so, like, that's the beauty of a human. We are so determined, and we're so, like, we can really get things, but also ignore the things we really, which is basically saying like, hello, hello, and we
Yeah,
just
but
Yeah.
ignoring them because, like, no, no, this is what we have been trained to, so we have to do this, we have to achieve this, we have to go there.
mm,
It's funny, there's so many classes out, especially now when supposedly we have more time. I don't know where I don't have any more time. Time has remained the same over here, but in theory, we have all this time. But like all these classes of like how to learn how to tap into your intuition. And I don't want to turn this in I definitely don't mean to turn this into a bad thing, but like how screwed up is society when we're like having to be reprogrammed and retaught how to tap into something that is like probably the only thing we're actually legitimately born with. Like we're not like we learn everything else, but like intuition, like that's like just somewhere just in us. That's that's in our genetics somehow. I feel like that's part of whatever soul means to me. Like soul in some area of soul like equals
Yeah,
intuition, which like intuition also to me equals the living in flow, the saying like yes to what feels right, distancing from what doesn't. Like we are so discombobulated that we have need to get like classes to tap back into this. And yeah, we like don't know how to create these safe environments then. Like it's this
no, and that's the interesting part, like, and what you just explained, it's like, I in Dutch it's better, so, but I will try to, like, translate it on the spot. It's like one of the persons I work with, he always had this great metaphor of like unraveling all the layers we have been, like, programmed with. So, like what you just said, we were born with intuition, and this is like the greatest gift we have. And at the same time, the minute you enter basically probably the outside world, you also have been teach how to not listen to your intuition, how to follow the directions, and like all this checks, and that's what he called is the unraveling, and in Dutch it's ontwikkelen, and he makes like ontwikkeling is development, and then he put
mm,
what is it, like,
a hyphen.
yeah, happened in between, it's like unravel all those layers again, to get back to your essence basically and your true nature.
and I
um
think often there's this misunderstanding between for me, what I've witnessed is, like, generational misunderstandings, just because I interact a lot with, like, my parents' generation, and they see our generation as, like, you're so focused on, like, self-care and self-love, and you're so self-focused, and that they're seeing it as selfish. But the reality is, and I think, and you've said this before in, previous talks you've given, that when we do better for ourselves, we do better for the world. And so it's a process of, um, determining, like, what you need so you can be better suited to support others. Is that kind of how you see it?
yeah, and I think it's interesting that you bring up your parents, because, and that's why I want to understand how it defines society and also in history, because what we need today is not what we need, maybe not what we need tomorrow, and also what we didn't need yesterday. So, you grew up probably in America, I'm making an assumption, but like,
Mhm.
and put it in generation here in Europe, people who were growing up after World War had a whole different need than we have a need today. So we are now in the luxury position to challenge what we have built. And people always say to me like, "Yeah, but you are challenging money, and like that's bad." I said, "No, it did bring us at a certain point." And I think that we lost the connection and the harmony in between both worlds, because we saw that this is working for our needs in that period of time, and so we, like, over make that efficient, and we know how to control that because basically it's a form of control. Um, and then the downside, and that's the generation like we are facing here probably today, is like, hey, but this is not how I want to live my life, so let's change it again. So I think on a fundamental level, as if we are going that deep in a philosophy, is we want to control what we the outside world, and I think that maybe we need a little bit more let go of, we cannot control it, we cannot control nature, we cannot control, and as humans we have been so far by doing what we are doing. And I think it's a fine line between doing good for profit and doing good for harmony. And I think that's like what we have to challenge, like, and observe, like, okay, when do we cross it and how do we get back? And that's only that, like, also having the guts to let go of something which worked in the past and now say, like, okay, it did bring us here and now we're going to change it because it doesn't bring us further.
That's I don't want to make this too much of a stretch, but that's a transaction, right? Like these are like societal transactions of what we need. Yeah,
Why is it a transaction? Explain.
because it's or I guess what I'm trying to what I'm thinking of is like, here's what society needs. So it's put out as being wanted or as a need, and then people come and fulfill that need. But as the need changes, like a different fulfillment has to come. Like it's somewhere a mix of maybe like societal contracts and transactions. Like there might be a mix there, but a contract is a transaction technically.
That's true. And sorry to interrupt you, go.
No. I was just going to say, I think it just underlines a little bit that we have all these transactions in our lives all the time that we might not be aware of. That's not just relationships or just with ourselves, but like these contracts everywhere.
Yeah, and we need all of that. And I think that if we also change the definition of transaction, it's more like now we're gonna get a word, like what a definition of transaction is actually. But it's like, I always really like I'm not really like a quoter. I do love them, but I don't want to do it in my work too much. But a really strong one, I think, is what Gandhi said: there is enough. Earth is providing enough for everyone's need. Or no, Earth is providing enough to satisfy everyone's needs, but not everyone's greed.
Mm.
And I think that's for me like the guidance of, okay, then we have to tune in what everyone needs is, but your need is different than my need. And I think that's where it becomes transactional and like programmed, is that if I am living up to your needs, I take maybe more or less than I should be satisfied with. So I think that's the whole point. We have to tune into ourselves. What do I need, and what do I need today? And it can be different than tomorrow. And like, how can we create this environment where we lead what we need, and how can we have the freedom also to lead what we need? Because honestly, like, all the institutions are also guided by what their institution needs and not themselves. So like education has a definition of success, like government has a definition of success, but that's not your definition of success. But you have to fit in to what they want to have as success. And I don't know, like, I'm probably not gonna live this life, but in a fundamental way, like, why, and this is a dream maybe, like, why can we not create a world where we just live what we need, instead of like living up all of these expectations? And I think we can start with small steps towards a different world in that sense. So
Yeah. So let's bring in for a minute what you're
sorry.
working on.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about, or a lot more about wish and gift economy, where to start off with, maybe just what it is, and then we can get into why you started it.
Wish and gift environment is an environment where we experiment, or economy, you can put the label on what you want, but experiment with a philosophy where we change our belief system, our programming on how we get things. So we are programmed that we get things by I have money, I pay you money, and that's already a transaction also. But and I need money. So those two elements are like what we have programmed with on how we need things, and we are challenging: do we really need that, or can we get what we need to accomplish our dreams without paying a penny? So that's like our little teaser to challenge what we're doing there. And
so what does that look like?
So how does it look like? It's like we have this magic formula which exists out of 4 or 5 elements. It all starts with a wish, and that's like we have to know what we need to fulfill that wish. So and to know what we need. So
you have to create an environment.
I was in my head already like, oh, shall I do an example? But I will first say what it is, and then I will make an example. Okay. So it's all starts with a wish. Tune into what you need to fulfill that wish.
Create that environment of knowing what you ask for, which is the theory that you've brought.
Yeah. And then you can ask what you wish for to attract the right gifts. And an important element is, of course, that we have to trust that this system works. Because what we always also said is like, if you give me something, I don't have to give you something back. Because we believe that you get what you need when you need it, and that you give what you need when it is needed. So we let go of, I give you now something, you have to give me back something in return in the present time, and also that you have to give me something back in return.
So it's just that at some point, this like energetical exchange that we're having, it will get looped back. If I'm getting something from you, it will get looped back to you in a different way at some point.
Yeah, and that's trusting that, back to Gandhi, that there is enough to satisfy everyone's needs, but not everyone's greed. So that's trusting that the ecosystem or the economy or whatever, environment, whatever word you want to put it on, that provides what you need when you need it.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is then we have to know what we need. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is that we dare to ask for it, because we're also not really programmed in a world that we ask what we need for, because asking equals weak, not go on. And another important element is that we have to learn how to receive, because receiving is also not our strongest part. So it's like it takes some challenges, but it's a radical idea, and we believe in order to create something new, we just have to do it and see and learn from it what's going to happen.
And I know you've already had a test of this.
Yeah, I'm living it myself for 2 years. So I'm one data point, and then another bigger data point to test if it's also working outside my own world is what I always say, like I wish and gift the wedding of a best friend of mine. So we completely arranged her whole wedding by energetic exchange or wish and gift exchange. So there was no money involved anymore, but only wish and gifts. So that was a cool project, of course.
Very cool. Yeah, I love, just for the listeners to know, even down to the venue, which ended up being exactly what they were looking for, gifted them.
And to put it in perspective, it was a venue I didn't know, so no one did know that venue.
Right, it wasn't like friend of a friend kind of thing.
Yeah, it was not a friend of a
friend. You had to convince them.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, you have to do it. No, but the beauty, what happened is that I asked my friends, dream your wedding, and they were in a circumstance that they needed to do their wedding earlier than planned. So they were like having all these obstacles in their head, and so they were not daring to dream their dream, but also therefore not to ask what they need for. So I said, like, dream your dream. If there is like no obstacles, dream your dream. What is it what you really want, and therefore also need in this case? So there was an exercise in itself, I can tell you that. But when they were tuning into their dream, the beautiful thing what happened is that immediately when they put out like, this is our beautiful location, this is how we envision it. So one person replied, "Oh, but then like I have this location. I know like a friend of mine did had a wedding there. So do you mean this?" So they were putting a visual to what they were saying. They said, "Yeah, this is exactly what we want." So then fast forward, we put out everything in a marketplace, and we said like, okay, let's just ask and let go and see if this location is available and the date. So we went there. It was, of course, beautiful, perfect. Um, and then we had to say, like, okay, so we want to do the wedding here, but we don't want to pay for it. We want to, so we're doing this with a gift. And yeah, it was beautiful. Like after one meeting, they said, like, cool, we want to collaborate with it and help us with making our dreams come true. So that was a fun project.
That's so
pretty
cool.
wild. So on a practical, like technical like a practical technical level, the whole thing kind of takes place online and then you move offline to reach out to other people. Like, what does it look like when you go to wishandgift.org?
So we're fine tuning actually like what it exactly is going to look like, honestly. But so how we see it is like Wish and Gift is part of our research. It's a playground where we observe like how can this work. So we are asking people to come into the playground for a certain amount of time. So we call this a reboot camp where we are gonna teach them like how to work with this and like strip their programming down, like reboot your own system, put in your backpack this philosophy, if you want to call it that, and test it out and have your own success. So what we envision is people come to this playground, and when they leave the playground, they have in the backpack like how can I use this in my world also. So we are like creating this safe space with like-minded people who are already committed to that, so they can test it out, have their own experience, and then like test it out, go in your own world, like go to your hairdresser, go to your like whatever you need and see if you can arrange it for yourself. And
It sounds so
so
crazy, but it's not. I mean, we do it all the time. We just call it a favor,
yeah,
you
and that's
know?
especially in family settings. Like I'm never asking something back if I have to babysit my sister's children. That's like what I do because I love them.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, what if we just loved and trusted everybody that much? What kind of society? I mean, it is radical. It is like, depending upon how you hear it, it is like, well, that's just crazy. But like, it just also makes so much sense.
Yeah, and that's like it is radical, and I think it's nature. What you
Yeah.
just said before, it's like we were born with intuition, and we were also born with giving and take. No, we are basically more born with giving, but also like I don't mind if I get something from my sister, even like if she's asking something in return. Then I'm like, what? We are family. Why are you asking me something in return? Like that's also working, that mechanism. So.
And you're lucky to have that dynamic. Not every family's going to have that dynamic,
No,
so that has to be calculated in. But again, that's by having that dynamic or not, that's also just a part of what this societal programming, how much and to what degree it's permeated in.
yeah.
Um,
And I think like beside that you get on a different way what you need, and that's like already a different experience. But if I did see for myself, but also at this wedding, and all the people I work with, honestly, in this wish and gift contract, if you want to call it that way, it's not only the fun part of getting something without paying a penny. Of course, that's a trick and it's fun, but and I will make it what it is for me. It is releasing so much more. Also, it's like also like it's like the satisfaction of getting something is just in that one moment, but the energy I get on a lasting, longer way of having this type of relationship with people, that is like giving me so much more than the the thing I really need.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to mention to listeners, so Doreen and I have known one another for a few years now, and I was been lucky enough to know and follow this journey a bit. So as we've been setting up the My Sex Bio studio, which is really the first way that we've had um, basically any income stream to My Sex Bio in any significant way. Um, we set up part of our whole platform and how we set up our exchange is that we have the option that if you cannot pay, that we will do a wish and gift exchange. And we also set up the whole structure so that we never want to turn anybody away. Everything is donation based, basically, with the understanding that money is still a very convenient form of wish and gift trading. Um, so we do accept cash. It is its own energy.
Yeah.
And if you are not able to pay in cash or don't want to or anything, we're prepared and very excited to do a wish and gift exchange in a different form of something that we need, and then we can give you back classes in exchange. So just so that everybody knows, we're also looking to help test this out and be more data point and see how this idea can expand.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of, like, Amanda, you asked me, like, how does it look like and what is going to happen? And I don't know where it's going. Like, I come from a background of communities, and I can easily see a community of it. And that's not my end goal, if you ask me. But I see it more of like, if enough people use this philosophy, we can use it in every environment you are. So what you are just explaining, you want to use it in your own environment, and if we can, in over time, what we are doing now, come up with such a, like, easy to understand and, like, facilitate people. So, oh, you have a community here, use the tool we have, like, developed on the website, just make your own collective and do your own thing with it. So, like, facilitate people how to use it in their daily life. I think that's what my role here is, as a personal level. And what I gain from it is, how can I learn and understand by observing what people are doing to, like, evolve this in this part better, but in a more research level. Okay, but how does it contribute to and challenge, like, what is wealth? Like, how does it contribute to changing the definition, or not changing, enriching that definition of wealth?
So let's start to pivot towards more sex and sexuality in this realm.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
How do you see sex coming into play in a transactional form, with needs and desires, kind of more related to what you were saying in your theory?
I think when it comes down to sex, and when I was just taking the shower and I was thinking about how we would, of course, I was knew that you were asked this question. I was thinking about, we are programmed with so many different scripts, and we are living a script we have programmed with. And it's the same for sex. Like, we are programmed with a script, and whatever your script program is, if it's through education or to porn or to stories of friends or whatever, we are living, or not living, we are playing a script. And if you're playing a script, we are not tuning into what I need. So recently I was, like, having sex, and there was, like, I was really aware in that moment, like, oh, normally I would now think, like, I have to give you back this. Like, you give me oral sex, I have to give you back oral sex. Like, how many times, like, the man push your head down and, like, okay, now it's time to go there. But if that's what the other person don't really want, then I'm playing my script, but I'm not tuning into his or her needs, whatever the situation is, and vice versa, also for myself. So how's coming back to sex? If I don't know what I need first, and I'm just playing a script what I have been picked up somewhere, whatever that somewhere is, then you will probably not get what you really need, and you are not giving what you can give what the other person needs.
Yeah, you're not being present.
No.
Yeah. And how do you tune into those things? I feel like communication is often one of the things that people talk about. Um, at My Sex Bio, we talk a lot about reflection, journaling, meditating. Um, how do you tune into those things?
I think the list what you just said, it starts with being aware for yourself, like what is your need, and feeling what is working for you and what is working not for you. And what is working today for me can be, I can be having a whole different need tonight, because then I am in a different mood and I want something different. um, Communication is of course really important, but it starts also with internal communication. How are you communicating with yourself about this topic before you, or not before you, how you when you are expressing it external. um,
I think that
and
also
then
just
again,
go ahead.
sorry,
No, go ahead,
no,
go ahead.
no, 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 go.
I think that really hits home what your theory is. If you don't have that environment set up to where you can ask for what you want,
You
it's
deliver
not
what you
it's not
think.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
And that environment includes both with yourself as well as in whatever relationship or relationships you might be in. Um, do you have you I mean, we talked about intuition. Um, Amanda, I think you're asking good questions of like, okay, great, all these ideas are really nice, but like, how the hell do we do it? Like, what's the practical aspect of like making it actionable? Um, and we talked about like following intuition for ourselves of what we want, but are there building blocks that you've encountered of how to help establish that environment with in a relationship?
Hmm.
Well, and it's
What?
sorry, and it's funny too because you mentioned talking about in terms of wish and gift economy, we're talking about trust,
Mm-hmm.
and I personally I would say that that is a key part of it. Like if you trust that person, that they're not just there to screw you over or get their own needs or anything, or what might be scary to saying what you really want, what your real feelings are. If you trust them, then you're probably a pretty solid foundation of being able to move forward of having that kind of environment, but there's also probably other components in the pot.
Yeah, but even if there is trust, and even in like, I think that's the main component which is needed. And I always say, like, you have to trust and surrender to each other. Like, you have to trust and you have to surrender to yourself, to each other, to the situation. And still, then, like, I have a really good relationship with my partner, and I feel really trusted and I surrender completely. But still, then it's sometimes like hard to say something what you need, because, and especially I know that I have this by default, I want to take care of the other person's need also. So I'm gonna think like, oh, maybe this is what it's gonna be perceived as, and oh no, but I don't want to hurt the person. So it's like we are already like having all of this like thoughts for the other person, instead of and taking it with ourselves and express it. And I think I don't think it's selfish to think, but what, referring back what you were saying, Amanda, for self-care, it's it's mandatory to have a healthy relationship with yourself at first, but also with the other person. And you will hit like hard rock bottom with each other. um, and then if you have that trust and safe environment, then you have the solid base to move forward, and otherwise you will not move forward in that.
We say that yes, that's something else where it's like, okay, we can say that's mandatory, but now that also just feels like this other roadblock. Okay, so if I'm not good with myself, I'm not going to
Sorry,
be able to
sorry.
get
Yeah,
all
yeah,
these
yeah.
things.
No, yeah, you're right.
Just
You're
in
right.
just I also mean that in terms
Yeah.
of that's another one of these, like, we're just born with it, but we have to do all this work to get it back. So, like, I
I will
don't get
take back my
happiness
word.
until then.
No, you're right. It's
No,
not
but
an.
you're right too. It's like,
It's not a.
why are these things not fucking easy? Like, why do we have these barriers of just being true with ourselves? Like, and I know we're not going to tackle that specifically right now, but like, why do there have to be classes about this shit? Like, why does this organization have to exist? Like, our goal, make ourselves obsolete. Legit.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah, that's a philosophic question, so I can answer that philosophic or just like leave the question there. But like,
Sorry.
no, but it's also
Aberrant.
no, it's life. I will call it life, and we learn together. That's
It's not life though. It's these constructs, it's these contracts, which I think just even just in this conversation, it was like, why do we have these contracts? But like we need them in order for like survival. There was one point where it's like, why do we have them? Why do they even have to exist? Why can't we just have this like utopia, trust one another? How did these come into play? And yet and like, well, we know that like sounds really nice. We've also completely accepted, oh, they just have to exist.
yeah. I think that's what you said. We accept it, and we don't observe and challenge it anymore.
Yeah. So maybe that's and you mentioned that too. Maybe that's a key part of this is that observation and challenging with ourselves and relationships. That's I
Yeah.
know, or I shouldn't say I know. I think that that's part of what your journey has been. Is that would you say that's true? Are there parts of that that you could unpack for us?
Yeah. I think that's observing was like what I do love to do in general, but it's create an understanding. So I have like observed my life for the last 7 years, like really like on a fundamental level. So I dig deep and like went to the source. And at the same time, I challenged the things that what I was doing. So why do I do this? Why do I need this? What am I like? What is it bringing me? What do I want to get out of it? Do I want to get out of it, or do I do it for another person? Am I doing it for myself, or am I doing it for you? So it's people always say like, yeah, you were so serious and like you don't have fun. I said like, no, I want to make my life more fun. So
That's funny.
yeah.
I can't imagine someone saying that about you, but that's what you say about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, observation and challenging. I think that that really is really important a lot of times.
Yeah, I observed my work life and I changed it twice, and then I had to change it another time because I challenged it not. I challenged it in that moment also, but then I challenged it on level A or level B, and then later in life, but maybe have to dig deeper and have to challenge it also on a deeper level. So it's like, and I think that's the uh, thing we have to be aware of. It's a continuous dance with life, and it's not a like, oh, if I am there then this. And I think like what I had learned the last 2 years, like really like indoctrinated in that sense, I was so conditioned with an either or and like and then. So like, okay, if I do this then I can like, then I can do this, and or then I'm happy, or like again that checkbox I had to like first have to check and then I can. And then like one of my teachers said like, it's end. That's what it is, and it's not an either or, it's an end. You can be like feeling it in this moment and working to that moment. You can having that relationship with yourself and having that other relationship with another person. It's not an like, oh, I have to do this first and then I am becoming that person. I think that's also what we have programmed. Like we go to first grade, we go to second grade, we had like we are programmed with like with steps, and we're not programmed with like, okay, life is already good as it is and it can be better tomorrow. And
Yeah,
also,
and I think that that's like a really dangerous trap that a lot of people fall into because, like, for example, with schooling, I always used to get frustrated because, like, in middle school, they're like, you're here to train to be able to do like junior high. And then in junior high, they're like, the whole purpose of junior high is to train for high school. And then you're training for college, and then you're training for the real world. And then you get to the real world and you're like preparing for the next steps and steps and steps. And you're always thinking it's going to be better when you get there and you'll finally understand it. Then you get there and you're just going through the motions of life. You're not experiencing the emotion that they're saying is going to come with it. And the same thing for like, oh, if I lose 10 pounds, I'll be happier. And then, or if I marry this person, I'll be happier. And yeah, we're never trained to appreciate the present. We're only trained to think about the next thing, at least in America, which has always been a dangerous thing, I think.
I think you guys master it, but we have it also.
Thank you. How we're helping the world, not.
Yeah, your great contribution to growth, the American dream.
You're welcome. We'll be here at least a little longer. That I wanted to make sure we brought this up. You mentioned it briefly, but a key part of the wish and gift economy is asking the question, what is wealth? And I think that that's a beautiful foundation to have, and incredibly important for us to just ask ourselves, which, Amanda, I think that that's what you were just saying really gets at. It's like, what is wealth? What is, like, immediately the indoctrination is stacks of money, like rooms full of gold, of ducks swimming through it, whatever that show was. But is that wealth? Is that really what's best for us, for wealth to mean? Does that kind of wealth benefit us? And if that's what we're all chasing, should we not have a definition for what we're all chasing that actually benefits us and society as a whole and our blue-green little planet? So I don't know if you have a further thought on that. I just want to say, like, this what is wealth concept.
If you go back to what we just all the time talking about, this indoctrination, and what you just said, Amanda, like you have to reach this level. It is starting from a definition what you just explained about. It's like having this stocks of money. So like we are programmed like, okay, that's the definition of success. Success is equal to having lots of money, having lots of material, and a flowing career. So that's like, check, you are successful. Coming from the definition of wealth, of having that stocks of floating money. And that's what I think a really one-sided concept of wealth. And what I discovered for myself is like I chased this path, and I was like, I had that career on a really early age, sold a company, so I like hit all the boxes of like have that flowing career, and at the same time I was sick and like more depressed than ever, and so it was not really bringing me happiness and wealth, if you are like looking at in that definition. So I really want to challenge people, enrich your definition of wealth and come up with your own definition, because your definition is not the same as mine, and Amanda is not the same as yours, and I don't have the same as Amanda. So then we get back to asking what you need for. If you know what wealth is for you, then you can also ask and live up what your true wealth is. And I think that's, if we understand that better for ourselves, then we can also do better for our environment and save that blue little green planet of us.
Yeah. I think that's probably a good note to wrap up on. Dorine, could you share one more time the theory that you've brought?
We must create environments where we ask what we need for. Not need for, but we ask what we need.
Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We hope this episode's given you something further to reflect upon, and we really hope that you reach out to us with any questions or insights, and you can do that on our Instagram page at Carnal Theory. And also definitely go check out Wish and Gift, which Dorine is working on. You can do that at wishandgift.org. And you can check out the things that she is researching more at her LinkedIn. Thank you for being here, Dorine.
Thank you for having me.
Carnal Theory is produced by MySexBio. Our sound design is by Audrey Cohane, and our theme music by Min the Universe. MySexBio is an educational platform built to empower people like you to take command of your sexual biography. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, and Spotify at MySexBio. Visit our website and join our e-letter at mysexbio.org and support our work by joining our Patreon. Thank you.